Hello and welcome to today's video. This time we'll be doing a long overdue bagging video where I bag up the first 100 or so vintage Pam paperbacks. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so we'll start off with the few odd hardbacks that Pam did, and I'm going to put these in digest bags rather than regular paperback bags. So this one's got orange boards, and that first one there's got the red boards. So just a slight variant there. Most of the books, of course, are going to be regular paperback size, but there's a few that are come in wrappers, and I've got these digest ones on standby just in case we might need to put them in the slightly larger bags. This one is The Fountain of Youth, came out a little bit later. I suspect we might be able to get this in a paperback bag. Let's have a go. Yeah, I think that's going to go in there okay. So these were all the precursors before... no, it needs a digest. These were the precursors before the regular sort of A format paperbacks that we are familiar with. And we will do the first 100 of those today, in the numbered order anyway. I've got a few books which I've got more than one edition of, you know, like a different cover, for example. And some of these, like this one, it has got a notoriously delicate dust wrapper, so I'm really pleased that I'm finally getting around to popping these in a bag. This is another one, very, very thin little wrapper. In fact, all the Pam dust wrappers in this early period are very, very fragile, and they break and they chip easily. So do bear that in mind. Now, this is the first of the soft bags. Make a bit more room here. And there's 3 of these. And once again, these may need to go in digest because they're wider. But does that just slip in? Yeah, look at that. Just, if it sits flat, we're okay. And that just fits in, doesn't it? So that's okay. And there's, as I said, there's 2 that size and 1 slightly smaller. I mean, the size is all over the place, isn't it, really? But after these, then we get to the regular A format books. But yeah, these have been a little bit overdue, you could say. I've been meaning to do these for ages. There we are. So it's the last of the slightly odd ones, odd shape that is. So we get these bagged up, and then we'll crack on with Pam number 1. Now, just lately, and you may have noticed on the channel that I have been a bit penguin book heavy. That's not intentional. It's just I had a very, very large collection come my way of penguin books. It was, well, how many was it? It was about 3,500 books in total. I've cleaned up and processed about 1,000 of the more sort of desirable ones, because although there's some that I wanted, the majority of them were just doubles. I mainly bought the collection for the later books rather than the early ones, but the early ones came with it. So those particular ones I've now started moving on to other collectors. But I've been a little bit preoccupied doing all of that and not had so much time to devote to some of my other publishers. And my second paperback love is, and always has been, Pam books. And that is why I thought, well, what a good excuse, really, to get my Pam books out again, get the first 100 bagged, and we can have a little look, another chance to have a look at their loveliness. And I'd like to bag up all the original numbered series over the next few months or so. I have actually put a little bagging playlist together of all the books that I've bagged. So if you are interested in that, it's another chance to have a look at some very, very nice books indeed. Then just check out that playlist. I've done like the first 100 penguins, but I've done other ones. I've done like my entire collection, like the Collins White Circle, because I've only got maybe just over 100 of those. I did all of those in one hit. A nice big long video. Not sure how long this video is going to be. Probably an hour, I would guess. But once we've got these slightly odd shaped ones, everything's pretty much regular then. We're all into standard A format. Now that's the end of the roll, so let me change that. There we go, got a nice fresh roll of sellotape on there. And I use Magi tape is my sellotape of choice. The actual roll, the dispenser was the biggest one I could find. And it's not ideal because you can't really pull it off with one hand when you're holding the sort of the book covers back, but I try my best, have a little bit in the hand and then do it like so. And obviously if you've got any sort of interest at all in pan books, then the ultimate destination is ticket.net. That's the pan website, and they've got every pan pictured. Not just pre-ISBN, they've got a lot after that as well nowadays. And Tim does a great blog each week, which is worth checking into once a week on a Monday, just to find out the latest pan news. Now this one I may actually fold over because it's has got quite thin dimensions, as it were. Let's do that first. Nice, all right. Nice, but you could say that was like a precursor to the pan book of horror stories, couldn't you? But that's the oddly shaped ones all done. They look nice and they'll be fully protected now. Now, the next thing we're going to do is then start on the just the standard A format books, starting with pan number 1 here, 10 stories. And what I'm going to do, just because some of these have been on the shelf for a while, I'm just going to give them the very, very light brush off and then bag them up. Now, unfortunately, one of the books we're going to be looking at is the slightly controversial Agatha Christie one, because that was Pan Books number 4. So whilst I shall of course be bagging it up in the normal way, but I'm going to potentially have to censor that bit so that it doesn't offend anybody, because that's not the sort of channel we are around here. I don't want to offend anybody. The book is obviously very old. I mean, almost 100 years old now. But when this book was published by Pan, it was a very, very different time. It was 80 years ago, you know. So here we are. So I shall do my best to cover up the offending word. But I'm afraid to say we're going to need to censor that out. So I've got the first print, and this is just so I can check the third, I think, printing. There we are. That's a nice little batch. After we bag these up, I'll be in the clear then. I won't need to censor any books. I don't want to censor my videos, you know, but at the same time, I really don't want to offend anyone, and I really understand it. But don't they look rather nice? Doesn't that look gorgeous? It really does look beautiful. I love them, and this is why I'm doing it. The books do just look lovely. And now protected from the dust and other, well, whatever might be looking to attack it. But where I store these, they definitely do get a bit of dust. I mean, it's just inevitable, but not loads, you know, not loads of dust. Yes, I noticed there that the book wasn't quite at the bottom of the bag, so I'm squeezing it in again just to make it a little bit of a tighter seal. I don't really want sort of the book flopping around in there. I like it to be right at the bottom of it. Last of the offensive books. There we are. Right, now we can start enjoying them again. And I really managing to break the bag here. Yeah, I managed to break, look at that. First time I think I've ever done that. It was all down to three-time plays. JB Priestley's fault. Let's delicately try that again. Yeah, this one's ever so slightly, it's right on the edge of being able to fit in there. That's why that caused that problem. Which is why I think possibly some of the books which later on have dust wrappers, we might need to be treading with a little bit of extra care. But I have got all the regular numbered pan series. I haven't got them all in dust wrappers, and I shall be making a note of the ones that I've got in dust wrappers as we go along. Now here's a bit of a thicker one, so let's see how we get on with this. Let's see, that slipped in all right. Once again, Tim's great website has got a full guide to which pans came with wrappers and which didn't. There's not hundreds with wrappers, there's, you know, there's, I don't know, a couple of dozen. So it's a fairly easy checklist if you want to go and try and get them all. I've definitely not tried to do that with Penguin rather, but I'm just happy to have a copy in a lot of cases, you know. There we are, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 on the pile. And this one's huge, so I don't think that's going to fit. So no point struggling with it. We'll just put it straight into a digest sized bag, because look how thick it is. It's a biggie. And I'll just do that one while we go along. And make it a really tight seal. I said I don't really want the book rather, flopping around. Lovely. Early Graham Greene. Journey Without Maps. Don't want the bottom of the spine to catch on this one. There we are. It's a bit of a tight squeeze. It's all right. It was borderline whether we needed to pop it into a digest bag or not. It's another tight one. Yeah, that's another one that needs a digest bag instead. Just a little bit. These early ones are a little bit wider than your regular book. Simple as that. So they don't always slide in. That's another bag broken. Not very good. I know it's been a while since I've done a bagging video, but evidently I'm out of practice. There we are. Right. The problem with bagging all your books is just the sheer enormity of having so many to do, which is why I've tried to concentrate on the older books in my collection, the ones that are most going to benefit from being in a bag, really. You know, just if they're fragile or if, you know, they're susceptible, if you pick them up and there's a chance that you could actually do them some harm by overhandling them. So because of that, these early ones are pretty much a prime sort of candidate to get bagged up, really. So that's why we're doing it. Certainly my wartime penguins are in desperate need of it. The most valuable and fragile have already been bagged, but they're not like uniform. They don't look really nice like these do, because these particular bags are gorgeous. I do think they sort of bring out the best in the colours in that. without being massively expensive, which like the archive bags, you know, can be, you know, the miler bags. But Pan had a great list, and there's quite a bit in the great pans and the pan giants that I'm still missing. I just need to sort of knuckle down really and do it, but I've just had too many distractions on the penguin front just late, and that's sort of how it goes, you know. That really is how it goes. It just depends sort of what collections come on the market really, and being around at the time to try and grab a few bits for yourself, you know. That's really what it's all about. But there we are. That's a good little start anyway. All right, cracking on then. Yeah, it's just too tight. I don't like using digest bags on these because there's all that extra folding you got to do, you know. But unfortunately, this is the dimensions of these early pans are just too big, and they do, in actual fact, remind me of the Collins Crime paperbacks, which were also bigger than your standard A format size. You could say they're closer to a digest almost size-wise, you know. But the worst thing we could do is really, I could have squeezed it into that bag, but it would have rippled or buckled a bit, and we don't want that. So this is the best solution. And they look really nice, so we can't complain. Let's try and remember to give the top edges just that little dust, just in case. Very nice indeed. Some of these, and some that are still on my upgrade list. Looking for a better copy. And this is Grand Hotel. This is number 24. This one's in a dust wrapper. Now, do we dare risk it? Yeah, it's actually gone in okay, so that's all right. I have got a couple more dust wrappers, but they're because the wrappers are not tip-top shape, I've not kept them on the books. So I've got a little like shoebox full of old wrappers, lots of penguin ones, a couple of albatross and a couple of Pan ones in there. But for all I know, I've now got the books again, but they've got better wrappers on, so I may actually have spare wrappers, if you can believe it. Okay. Lovely. Check they're all in order while we go along. So I need to put them back in that way. And that one there, that's fallen out of spot. That should be number 58. May have been when I was packing packing my boxes up. So good job I checked that. Some very dark spines here, dark tops rather, but that's how it goes. Right, so number 27 is in a dust wrapper. The poor man. And I think one of the reasons they put dust wrappers on was because that the books just weren't selling very well with the covers that were on them, so they decided just to change them around. So that's usually the reason. And once again, this is quite a big thick one. This is also in a wrapper, so number 29. We'll give it a try, but we won't force the issue, shall we say. No, that's not going to work. Get a digest out. It's the only way, you know. There we are, 29. This is number 30. This one's also in a dust wrapper. But this one doesn't seem quite as thick. But that could be just a complete illusion. Yeah, that wasn't as thick as the matriarch. So it just shows this period in publishing, it was lacking a bit of unity, wasn't it? I mean, it really was. It just seems to be how it reflects the time that the books were published, really, you know? Lovely. So we got 27, 28, 29, 30 and 31. Of course, not all numbers were used, you know. There are a few which were never used, so don't expect to find a book for every single number, which once again is another reason why it's worth checking ticket.net out for that information. Right, well, I've actually had a little break for a couple of days. I've been at work, and I just sort of ran out of time the other night. I was basically halfway through this video, and yeah, I ran out of time. So I'm back now, and we're going to finish off the rest of these pans. And I don't like to leave a video half-cocked, particularly when I've had a gap of a few days, you know, but sometimes a break can be really handy and keep the quality up, as it were. There's one of those ones in a wrapper. So this is number 36 in a wrapper. Let's make sure that lies flat. Yeah, that's okay. I don't want to see the dust wrapper bubbling up at all, like rippling up, but that's okay. So 36 was in a wrapper. This one feels quite wide. No, he just fits in. Oh, Peter Jenny. Quite basic, these really early sort of covers, aren't they? They are a basic. Now this one's actually got the remnants of a dust wrapper, just the back cover. Have a look. It's the back. It's the back of a dust wrapper. So I'll make a little note of that, because this one did actually have a dust wrapper release, which is one that I haven't got. So I need to find one of them at some point. I think what happens is, and this will be the same with my penguins now, is that once you sort of complete a collection, you then sort of try and make it even more complete, if you can believe it, such as picking up a reprint, for example. And in fact, while I'm here, because I'll make a note of this in my editing, I'll just make a note of which printing this one is, and it was reprinted 1950 in twice. So I'll double check on the ticket.net pound website, but I suspect that's just the second cover, which is absolutely fine. So I like to pick up the various variations on the covers if I can on these. It's just a way to extend the collecting. You know, the fun of collecting these early pans is to get the variants. When you run out of first editions, not that I can really afford the room. I'm absolutely overloaded at the moment with books, and obviously predominantly that big penguin collection that I had in. But I have actually been buying a few pans of a slightly later variety, and they will be in this month's unboxing video and pickups, which is as you watch this on Friday, it's going to be coming out on Sunday. So there is some new pan stock in there. Well, not stock, but a few new bits for the collection, which I realised quite a few of them I didn't actually have, which is always good. But see, don't they look lovely? They really do. And I'm also enjoying the fact that I'm handling a few pans rather than penguins all the time, you know, which is, don't get me wrong, they're lovely, but, you know, it's nice to have a change, you know. And I think that's probably why I got into collecting other paperbacks. You know, sort of back in the 90s, I started picking up some of the other publishers who I quite liked the look of, simply because I wanted a bit of a change rather than just sticking to Penguin and Pan. And you've got to admit, Penguin books, you know, until about 1955, they were all pretty plain, weren't they? They didn't exactly have much in the way of illustrated covers. They had a bit, but not much. And later on, of course, they caught up with the rest of the publishing industry and had illustrated jackets on all their books, but in the early days they don't. And I know that's an attraction for a lot of people, but you know, if you're a collector, they do start to get a little bit samey. It's just nice to have a bit of variety. And when I first started, of course, it was there was loads of pan books, because my dad had his Flemings and my mum had the Agatha Christie's, both well represented in pan. So there was lots of pan books in my house, and they were all sort of 1950, on the whole, 1950s editions from when my parents were reading a lot of like paperback books. And I remember that is definitely how I believe that's how I first got into collecting paperbacks, was when Dad said, oh yeah, you can have my James Bond books, because I used to like the movies growing up in the 70s. And Mum did exactly the same with her Agatha Christie's, you know, so, and I've never looked back. I've always had some, even from those early sort of days, really. This does seem quite a big book. Is it going to go in? No. So, let's take out a digest bag here for this one. it's weird, it's just a tiny bit, these early ones are just a tiny bit too wide, and it is quite frustrating that they don't fit into the regular bags. It really is. Let's see if this one will go in. Now, this one is number 44 and it's in a wrapper. That's another one. It's just too wide to go into the paperback bag, which is very frustrating indeed. Having to stick them in the digest bags. This one I think will be okay. There's no wrapper on it for starters, and it's a thinner book, so that goes in without any trouble at all. No J.M. Marsh. No, it's a thought. This one I think will be okay. Of course, as we get later on, the books become much more standardised. Don't forget, a lot of these were being printed in France and then shipped down the Seine, up the Thames and into the UK, because when these were being published, there was still paper rationing in the UK, and it wasn't easy for a new publisher to get established. It's as simple as that, you know. So they had to be printed in Europe. This is a later one, obviously got a much later jacket. A reprint of Malice Aforethought. And that fits in without any trouble. So you can see what these later ones are going to look. They're going to look absolutely terrific in their fresh bags, which is cool. A Random Harvest. Now this feels wide. It feels like a bit of a wide boy. But it slips in okay. That's all right. This is another one in a jacket. So Mr. Perrin and Mr. Trowell, number 48. Quite a thin little book. So I suspect this will go in without any trouble at all. But this one's also in a dust wrapper, so I'll make a note of that. There we are. I don't think I'm missing loads in dust wrappers, but I'm definitely missing some. And a Goldsworthy. Yeah, not the greatest of covers, that one. This is that period when a lot of the Pan books had all black spines. That was almost like their identity. And I'm not a massive fan of them, to be honest. There's some Agatha Christie's that were released like that. But I prefer, one of the great things about the Pan is, like the covers, it's the variety and the colourfulness of them. They just look so great, you know, and I wouldn't want them any other way. I need to make a little note of the number, because we had that, I think it was number 54. That was, for some reason, had gone out of spot. I think it was when I was bringing these out from the collection. It slipped down the side of the comic box, as it were. So there's like the original cover, and then there's the reprinted one there. Quite different, isn't it? The original one it's nothing really great to shout about, is it? In all honesty. But it's been quite a while since I've picked up even any great Pans. As I said, on Sunday you'll see a little smattering of some, but not loads. Now these are the ones that were in the digest bags, so they require the extra bit of attention. Need to make sure that the seals are nice and tight, like so. Yeoman's Hospital. So, I don't know if you remember, but a few months back I did do a little video on this. There was an incredible it wasn't just paperbacks, but there's a lot of paperbacks that came up for auction at a place called Warren and Wignall, which is in Manchester, or near Manchester. And there was what appeared to be a full run of all the vintage Pan paperbacks, the numbered ones. There was a full run, and then there was a very good selection of great Pans as well. And the numbered run, I think it went for about £2,500, which was, well, a lot of money. There was a lot of dealers in the room who were hoping to pounce on these collections just to make sure they weren't going too cheap. And I think they left fairly disappointed. All the books were sort of making almost like collector's prices. So there you go. It just shows that the paperback market is healthy, and that's not a bad thing. I think potentially it was in the doldrums a little bit before, you could say, the rise of the paperback YouTubers and people, BookTube in general. I mean, BookTube it really is an actual thing, and there are many channels now that like to focus on vintage paperbacks, not just myself, and even so much as, that's lovely, isn't it? Even so much as specialising in particular sorts of paperbacks, like science fiction ones, for example. I don't think there's any specialist crime YouTube channels, but there are specialist crime podcasts, and they're pretty good. And there's one I very much recommend. Well, there's two I recommend, actually. One of them is called She Done It, which looks at the interwar year crime titles mainly. They do some later stuff, but mainly it's the stuff that came out between the two wars. So, you could say the golden age of crime. So some really, really great stuff in that period. That was tightly just about fitted in. And there's another one which is Agatha Christie centric. It's pretty much just Agatha Christie, and it's called The Swinging Christies, and it's a podcast about just Agatha Christie during that 60s decade. And you might think that's very, very limited, but it's amazing how much it isn't in actual fact. It really is quite comprehensive, and I've been enjoying that one. That's too tight. I've been enjoying that one immensely. It's only got about 8 or 9 episodes, so it's certainly worth your time. So this one here is too thick for a regular bag. It's having to go into a digest bag, which is absolutely fine. This one, however, should be okay back in a regular bag. This is one of the Sanders books by Edgar Wallace. A nice Agatha Christie, Towards Zero, number 54. Now the book I've got to slip is number 58. Always have a soft spot for Towards Zero. I had a little role as an extra in the Geraldine McEwen adaptation of Towards Zero. Very, very brief, I can assure you of that. Blink and you miss it in the background. But I am in it, and it was fantastic to see her. And it was great to have a day on the set. In period costume. So when I edit this, I'll slip a little picture into that one. But I remember, I think I've got a photo of her actually sat down reading the book. Not a vintage Pan, it was a more modern edition, as I recall. But that was quite a nice day, that. Filming. If I'd have known, I would have taken a copy down to get signed by her. And we saw quite a lot of the other cast who were there in that one as well. There was Alan Davies, and the late Julian Sands was there. I remember seeing him very clearly. We got very friendly with Geraldine McEwen's double, because even back then, Geraldine McEwen was very, very elderly, and she did as little as possible, basically just the close-up stuff. And almost all of her scenes with her walking and things like that, it was all done by her double, to save her any wear and tear, as it were. She just did the sort of the close-up stuff, So consequently, her double was very, very busy. And when you know that, and you know what the double looks like, because she was much, much younger than actual Geraldine McEwen. It sort of gives the game away a little bit. Of course, Tom Baker was in that one, and he gets killed off pretty early. And sadly, he was not there in any of the bits that I saw, which was a shame, because that would have been great to actually have been in something, in a scene like the Tom Baker was in as well. That would have been great, but sadly, it was not to be. Lovely. There we are. So it's a nice pile of books. I'll make sure these are all in order before I put them on the stack. And they're not, so there we are. Good stuff. Right. I'd say we're 2/3 of the way there now. So we're getting through them quite nicely. And I got to admit, I'm very pleased that this first 100 are now going to be well protected, you know. This has been a job that's been overdue. And I honestly just haven't had the chance to get them out. But I am going to do all my numbered pan books over the next couple of months. So the whole numbered range is actually quite nicely bagged and protected. Is that going to go in? It's another one which is very, very tight. Nope, that needs to be a digest as well. It's just these early ones that, and this is not mint by any means, so it's been read a few times, which has actually made the book even wider. It's splayed a little bit. Let's try this one. Obviously, you put a more modern book in these paperback bags, and there's like loads of room, isn't there? There's like, you know, acres of room either side of it. How the books have become a bit more uniform. Make sure that lies. Yeah, that's okay. It's flat enough. It's not going to warp or ripple. They are quite a snug fit, I got to say, these ones. The Corinthian. Another one that's very, very snug. Slide him in there. Goes in all right. It's to the absolute extremities, that one. Filling the bag fully. Green for danger. That's quite a nice one, isn't it? Don't mind that one at all. And that slides in absolutely fine with a little bit of leeway either side. It is weird, isn't it, how they are slightly, by millimeters, slightly different sizes. And it must be that these are still, you know, going through, but they're being printed wherever they can get them printed, basically, rather than anywhere uniform in the UK yet. Saraban for dead lovers. Right, this one's in the digest department. down. And then, so 56, 57. There was number 58 from earlier on. 59, 60, 61, 62. Lovely. I'll tell you something else about these early pans is that they are actually quite heavy books. And I think the paper stock that they're printed on is, it really is quite heavy. And they are little swines for aging as well. The paper is not the best, I'll tell you that. So a little brush with my shoe brush, it goes a long way, in my opinion. So Anna of the Five Towns. Okay. It's just going to slide in, okay. Yeah. There we are. Lovely. Now that feels wider. I know it's weird, but let's see. Is he going to fit in, or do I need a digest for it? It's pretty nice condition. Just. It definitely was slightly wider than the previous book. It's really nuts. There we are. It just fits in okay. Yeah, pretty nice that one. But big crease on the front, but hey, I don't mind. Oh, old Mazza de la Roche. Quite a few of these were published in Pan, weren't they? Base, okay. Very sort of basic-y cover, that one. And a Saint book, Saint in New York. I do like the Saint, and I like the Saint in Pan. These were the first Saint books I think I ever read were in Pan. I seem to remember. When I was a kid, it was The Return of the Saint was on TV with Ian Ogilvy. Who remembers him? And that wasn't a bad show, was it? The Deed Without a Name. Now this one has got a bit of spine roll, so I'm not sure how easy it will be to slide in. Hoping it will just slip in. Yeah, it's in. So how does it sit? Yeah, he's all right. Late and soon. Okay, let's get them bagged up. Look at those eyes. Thankfully, none of these have to go in digest bags, so it may be we've seen the back of the really wide ones now with erratic printing, but there may be a few big thick books that's still going to need digest bags, so we'll deal with them as we get to them. When I do these, it's not like a comic when you're doing a big run of comics where you have to like squeeze the air out. Doesn't seem to be like loads of air gets trapped in these bags, which is great. But when we look back through them, don't they just look absolutely awesome? They really are lovely, these. They really, really are. And they just feel better in a bag, you know? Right, let's do this. These ones here. Next little wedge. that way round, in fact. Dusty City. These have all been cleaned at some point as well. But where they were stored was perhaps not, chemically sealed, as it were, which is why it's always good to get the extra bit of protection on these. 1948, so you've got to remember how old these actually are. I mean, they are quite the age, aren't they? What's it, 76 years old? You have to bear that in mind. It's easy to not realise, isn't it? That's nice, but it seems very, very wide. I mean, it seems extra wide, this one. Can't imagine this is going to fit, but you never know. I don't think that's going to go in. Nah. Straight into a digest. No point wrestling with that one, I don't think. Now, this is another one which I'll put in a digest. It's also in a dust wrapper. It's a number 72, Cabbages and Kings. That was the original cover, which evidently they thought wasn't helping it to sell. So they released it with a dust wrapper instead, or as an extra. That dust wrapper is certainly the worse for wear. Slide that in there. Mrs. Van Cleek. Okay, now this one's in a dust wrapper. So this is number 74, Flames Coming Out of the Top. Once again, I'm not going to try and force it. I'm just going to pop it straight. It feels a big thick, but I'm going to put it straight into a digest to be on the safe side. And this one, quite a lower grade one. I'm sure this is on my list of ones to upgrade. Behold, here's Poison. Once again, I don't think this is going to go in to a regular bag somehow. No, that's also going to need a digest as well. Cool. All right, let's get these all sealed up. Yeah, okay in a bag, but not the best of copies, that one, sadly. But that's how it goes. It's better than not having one. And that's always my view with these old books. You may be, who knows when I'm next going to come across a copy of that. So because of that very reason, I'm not going to get shot of that just because it's low grade. I'd rather have a copy than none. Although I do know some collectors, they just wouldn't have it in their collection unless it was perfect. So they would rather not have one, which is, another way of looking at it as well. And if space is at a massive premium, well, maybe that is the way to go, Now, these bags that I've been using, I started getting them from Amazon, but Amazon are always running out of them, and they work out quite expensive. They're about £12 or £13 per 100 bags. My friend Dorset Bob, who is a science fiction specialist dealer, has been importing them from America, and he can sell these paperback bags at £9.95 for 100. And postage in the UK is just £2, whether you have 100 or 200. So if you email Bob at MrBook451 he can supply you with your needs, your vintage paperback needs. If you're looking to do yours, I'll have two links. I'll have the link to get them off Amazon if you prefer to do it that way, and also you can just email Dorset Bob, and Bob posts virtually every day. As I said, he's a book dealer, so he's always going to the post office, so you won't have to wait very long. And that's where I got my last lot. I got 500 paperback bags off Bob, just because I never want to be out of these, you know what I mean? I just always want some on hand for when I'm in the mood to do another 100 paperbacks, because that's how I usually do it. I try and do either a complete run of a publisher that I've got, or if it's a big one like Penguin or Pan or something like that, I just do like 100 books at a time. In this particular video, of course, we have those early unnumbered Pans and their hardbacks. So this one's actually a bit of a, and some, we got some reprints of that as well in here. So you've probably got a bit of a bonus episode of about 110 this time round, but that's okay. We don't mind. All right, so that's 70. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 75. Yeah, okay. Now we got, well, if I do these first, because then I'll be able to show you a triple whammy of one title, which is why you're getting far more than 100, really. I'm treating you today. At the Villa Rose. Lovely. This one, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's just going to go straight into a digest bag. So this is also in a wrapper. Number 77. This bed thy centre. That way. Death in High Heels. Look at that. That's quite a nice cover, that one. I quite like that one. Yeah, very, very nice indeed. I like that. Keeping Up Appearances 79, also in a dust wrapper, which I shall stick in a digest bag. Save that getting damaged. Laura. And then Antidote to Venom, a Freeman Wills Cross. Quite a scarce one, this, with the old syringe cover. One I wouldn't mind getting a better copy of, but I don't think it's very common. I think this is an uncommon pan. And you can sort of see why, can't you? Yeah, that's not going to go. This one's been read a few times, so it's got some spine roll on it. So that one did capture a little bit of air, probably because it was sealed in 3 places. Well, believe it or not, that took another 2 times before I could get it. So that little bit of the 79 there wrapper was folded round the correct way. What is it like? squeeze them down. There was a little bit of air in those. There we are. Start another pile over there, I think. Rapidly running out of room here on my desk. Right. Well, we got maybe about 20 to go or so, maybe a bit less, but I wanted to show you these all in one hit. So this is the first done witness, that's the second printing, and that I believe is the third. So 3 slight variations on the Agatha Christie there. I think it's the only one where I've got all the editions in their early form. But they make quite a nice little trio. This one I suspect I might struggle to get him in because it's a bit worn, this particular copy. Is he going to go? It's in, but it's way, way, way too tight. So best course of action with that is to pop it in a digest bag. So that it doesn't come under undue strain, like so. And what I should have done was just give these the briefest of, they're not too bad. It doesn't hurt to have that little bit extra, you know. And this was the last one, which was much more up to date, and the copies go in without any trouble at all. It's these earlier editions, they're just not uniform. They're just not, and that's where the problem lies, is some are thick, some are thin. And I had this exactly the same with the early Penguins as well. And the Collins White Circle books, all of the same sort of problem. And books in and out of dust wrappers, they just create issues. Whereas when I did a modern one, like I did the Door books, that was heaven. Because they all fitted in regular comic bags, you know, paperback bags. See, that's nice. And that does also, but it appears wide, wider than normal. So we'll see if it slides in. I hope so. Yeah, just, but still fairly tight. This one's on my wants list as an upgrade. Quite a low condition copy of this. But better than no copy is what I always say. There we are. I'm amazed that actually fitted in, but it's quite a thick book, but it did, which is all that matters. This is the middle dumb witness. I mean, I'd love to be able to get all the different Christie jackets, but there's so many of them, isn't there? You know, it'll be quite the task, I believe. But when I come across them, if it's one that I haven't got, then I will keep it, basically. And for some reason, I've been lucky with Dumb Witness and ended up getting, you know, the second and third printings fairly, they just sort of came my way, which was lucky, you know. But early on, when I started collecting Pan, I would discard all the reprints. It was a shame because I probably got rid of some of the original jackets when I really wish I hadn't now, you know. There we are. So pop these back in the other direction. There we are. And they can just go on there. And then we've got about 10 to go or thereabouts. Let's do this half first of all. And that will take us up to number 100. And then I'll try and do the next lot fairly soon. Give these a brush at the same time. It is just, at the moment, I'm so bogged down with vintage Penguin books. I'm trying to do anything else. It's proving a little bit problematic, you know, because you can't move for them. But they are slowly but surely getting processed. And I honestly, I don't want to rush the process either. So going through all those penguins, you know, it's a pleasure, not a chore, you know what I mean? So I want to actually enjoy the process as well. This is another one, regular book, not even in a wrapper, but it's so thick it won't fit in a regular bag. So we're having to go down the digest route. This one, however, feels absolutely fine. Feels fine, but yeah, he's okay. So well remembered. Hopefully this will be okay as well. Yeah, that's nice. This is also on my wants list. I've got the reprint as well, Western Union. Read this a couple of years ago. It was a really, really great read. I mean, really great. The only thing is, because of when it was written, which I think was the 1920s or 30s, there is an element, as you would imagine, of, you know, what we would call derogatory terms in the text. And in a lot of cases, it's set in the deep south, although it's all across America, in actual fact, this one. But it's still a very, very good book. And if you can put that to one side, I think you'll appreciate the book even more. So, yeah, if you ever get a chance to read Western Union, all about setting up the telegraph system across America, it really is actually very, very good. And I recommend it. But just bear in mind that little caveat about some of the language is, by today's standards, a little bit offensive, you know, a bit like Pound Books number 4, Agatha Christie's 10 Little As You Know. There we are. Giving that the digest treatment. Looks a bit like John Wayne, doesn't he? A little bit, that one. Or is that just me? No, he definitely looks a bit like John Wayne. So as I said, if you're interested in some more pans, some new acquisitions from slightly later, the 1960s, look out for this, the next unboxing or unpacking video. So my latest pickups, which will be for the month of June 2024, where I've got some more pans at last. First one's in a while. And a lot of them are quite Agatha Christie centric, and the reason for that is because I have been working on an Agatha Christie vintage paperback bibliography, and it's illustrated, so I've got cover scans of virtually everything now. But I'm still working my way through some of the publishers like Fontana. It's very, very complicated. Lots of different reprints for jackets, and that Pan I've already done. Penguin, of course, but it's already, if you can believe it, 88 pages in length. Now, just doing it for my own benefit at the moment, but I might expand it into something a bit more extravagant, so watch this space on that one. But yeah, it's I've only shown it to a couple of people and they said, oh, it's a real good piece of work, so you never know. Right, last little wedge here. Let's get these ones done. I don't think that's going to even begin to go in a paperback bag, so we'll go straight to the digest bag, like so. It's one of my favourites, Fiesta. Absolutely gorgeous copy of this one by Hemingway. A real favourite of mine, this one, in the early pans. Doesn't that look lovely? Problem with the wire cage. White oak heritage. This one's got a faded spine, but apart from that, it's a pretty nice copy of one of the early white oak novels. Got a question of proof. And we got number 100, The Lost World, Arthur Conan Doyle, which itself had 3 different versions, very, very minor different editions. So I haven't got around to getting any further ones, but they are just different logos and what have you. So let's give these, get these sealed. And then that'll be it for today's video. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed it. I am taking requests for the next bagging video because there's an awful lot still to do. I suppose I could do the next 100 door books, which I started a little while back. I should really, in all honesty, do the next lot of vintage pan. I mean, that penguin rather, that is overdue because I've only done the first 100. So I suppose I could do 100 to 200 in vintage penguin. That wouldn't hurt, would it? Because really, what I'm aiming for is to get the wartime ones bagged up as soon as possible, really, because they're quite fragile, and I want to. Some of them are in really old and horrible bags. I have got a bit of a momentous announcement to make in about a week or so's time with regards paperback protection, because I have had a company that has now produced plastic cases for paperback bags, and they look absolutely amazing. So I've currently got about 20 production samples, which I'm going to load up with some rather cool rarities, and I shall be doing a dedicated video on those in about a week's time. So watch this space for that, because I think you're going to absolutely love them. Anyway, thank you very much for watching today. If you have enjoyed it, looking through these lovely vintage pans, do please give the video a thumbs up. If you've not already, do please hit that subscribe button for regular vintage paperback content. And I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.